Welcome back to the Deep Dig Sports Pod. I'm your host, Drew. My other host, right over there.
What's up? It's D. Good to see you again. Go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe. And be sure to drop some comments below. Let us know your thoughts. We are a show for the people, obviously.
Yeah, and also, then we have been hitting our diamond picks of the week every week for the past, I don't know how many weeks, but how many units we up right now?
Right now we are up 7 units. So
you're not gonna want to miss this next
we're
pick on Saturday. Make sure you subscribe and watch out for the diamond pick of the week every week, giving you the best 49ers bets.
yeah, I mean, obviously last week we hit major big games, call for big plays, and that's what we do, buddy. But I mean, are you ready to kind of dig into this Eagles whomping?
This did not go how I expected. I mean, all leading up, I kept saying, well, listen, this Eagles team, it's been one score games. They've been in physical games. When is it going to catch up to them? And it feels like it caught up to them, and they just weren't physical enough. They couldn't dominate the line of scrimmage. Their linebackers couldn't tackle, and Debo fucking ate. Debo snatched their chain. And I don't know if you saw this morning, the Eagles actually signed
Shaquille Leonard.
So they really want to bolster that defense that got just we walked through them.
Yeah, man. And I talked myself into it as we led up throughout the week. And I think I even told you hey, the day when we were going to make the diamond pick, should we just bet the 49ers and put a bunch of points on it? I'm talking 9-10 points. And you're like, I don't know about that. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The Eagles do play well from behind. They've been in a bunch of one-score games. But I was thinking, just everything about this, the 49ers had a 3-game stint that was really awesome leading up to this. They had a lot of rest at playing on Thanksgiving. The Eagles were actually taking on the Chiefs. Then they followed it up with an overtime game against the Bills. This was the perfect time to strike. So I was thinking blowout. And the 49ers didn't stop talking shit this entire week. They kept it going the entire week, knowing, hey, exactly what Debo said. If we had Brock Purdy during that championship game, we would have beat them by double digits. And they followed through with everything that they had said. Trent Williams was all up in the mix, just mauling dudes left and right. Nick Bosa was battling was one of the better matchups against Lane Johnson the entire day. Brandon Ayuk had a couple of very clutch third down catches, along with Jawan Jennings had one super clutch third down catch, and then just absolutely mauled the guy and went into the end zone. Just tough plays, and they established that they are, as of right now, the better team.
Don't forget about the matchup with Dre Greenlaw and what's his name? Big Joe?
Dom.
Big Dom. What a battle of heavyweights. I mean, outside of the game, we could get into this whole situation. Watching the clip again today of what went down, I mean, I've seen coaches kind of oh, hey, let's break this up and everything, but whistle hasn't blown yet. Dre Greenlaw throws, was it Devontae Smith down to the ground? They're inbounds. And so already we were kind of okay, I mean, yeah, he suplexed him, it was like a side suplex, swept him to the ground. So already I was like, man, this 15-yard penalty, is it bullshit? And then immediately we see fucking Big Dom come onto the field and push Dre Greenlaw. And you're not a player. You're not one of the coaches. What are you doing getting immediately involved in a play that hasn't gotten physical? Yeah, they got in they're chirping in each other's face, but to that point in the game, no one was throwing punches. I don't understand if it was last chance you situation where they storm the field and they're stomping out your running back, they're actually throwing hands, but it's sports, it's physical. These teams don't like each other and they're getting each other's face. Why are you having this guy who works in an office? Because he's not the security guard. He's the guy that is in charge of security. Why is he stepping onto the field and pushing our player? So I thought it was bullshit that Dre Greenlaw is getting ejected for that.
Yeah, and former 49er Azeez Al-Shaair actually said, if anyone besides a player or coach touches me, we're going to have a problem. And I think a lot of guys feel that way. I know Richard Sherman was pretty pissed off about it too. Like, there's no reason for a non-player or coach to be inside the white lines during the game. There's no reason whatsoever. I think Big Dom is going to get banned from the sidelines, just like that guy from Miami that Tyreek Hill took the picture with his phone. I think it's the same thing. Hey, you're done for the year. We're going to reevaluate after this season and see if we're going to allow you back onto the field or not. But on the other stand, like, there's no reason for Dre Greenlaw to have been ejected when this guy shouldn't have been on the field.
And it's not like Greenlaw hit him or anything. Like,
he grazed him.
He pointed and it grazed his face. I kind of hate that about how soft the referees can be at times, where like, remember the referee like backed up into one of the players and he like bumped into him and he was like, "You're out of here." And it's like, bro, come, like, if it's incidental, like, why are we able to watch replays and like go back and see who started what or like how physical a play was, but we can't go back and like, okay, actually he accidentally bumped into this guy or his hand just grazed him when he was pointing. I understand that Greenlaw was in the wrong in that also by putting your hand in someone's face, but like, this guy shouldn't have been there. This guy instigated the situation. So what's stopping me from now hiring a bunch of fucking big doms from the Bay and putting them all over the sideline? Why is there a thumbs up on my face right now?
I don't know why that popped up. Is it? What did you do?
I was just making a really great point.
Yeah, it was like, fuck yeah. But yeah, I mean, let's go ahead and I volunteer Cali T, and let's get BT out there on the field talking shit to these players.
Yeah, I mean, like, why don't I have one like on every 10 yards, just fucking instigate something with the player, and now let's get a bunch of guys thrown out. Like, it's so dumb.
It's so dumb, dude. It's really ridiculous. But I mean, back to the gameplay. I think we were the announcers obviously were expecting the Eagles to rally around this big Dom guy and play better, which they did have a little stint where they were playing better. But I mean, if you listen to Brock Purdy afterwards, he was like, no, like, when you see that happening, when you see momentum shifting a little bit, you have to step on their neck. And that's exactly what this offense did. They came out and scored right after. And he even said, like, we have Dre's back. We love Dre, and we're going to rally around him. I think it was more of a motivator for the 49ers, if anything. Kyle Shanahan was fucking livid, dude. And he even said afterwards, there's no reason. Like, I think that they are going to be pushing for Big Dom to never be on the field again, or at least the rest of the season. And the 49ers team seemed like they ended up winning out on this, on that exchange.
Yeah, I mean, the 49ers came out, and I think we got to give like Steve Wilkes some credit, because when the game started, Eagles drove down, they're looking really good. But as the game progressed, I think the game plan was like, let's keep them in front of us. You know, no big plays. We're going to rush 4. And the coverage was really good this game.
Oh my goodness.
There were so many times. How many times the announcer's saying like Jalen Hurts is just holding the ball too long? Well, look downfield. Everyone's locked up. Travarius Ward had a great game. Ambry Thomas looked great.
Ambry Thomas. A lot of people owe Ambry Thomas an apology. I've been saying it since his rookie year. He was in the right positions the entire time that he was playing. Yeah, people made catches over him, but he was in the right spots. And look at what he did this past week. He was in the right spots when he needed to be. There was awesome just goal line protection when they needed it. I think he swatted 2 passes in the end zone. Charvarius Ward had a swat in the end zone. They just bend but don't break. It was awesome to see.
Yeah, the defense looked great.
And then Diamador Lenore folded DeAndre Swift, dude. That's a highlight play that you're going to see for years to come. He folded him like a lawn chair. It was crazy.
It was just a crazy game to watch. Like, this team that a lot of people thought was the best team in the league, and their record was showing that, just get absolutely dominated. I just wasn't expecting that at all from the 49ers, even though I was like, yeah, they could win. They could win by maybe 2 scores. But, man, Brock Purdy put the league on notice. I don't see anyone anymore saying how Brock Purdy's not the franchise guy. That argument, which was crazy to have, like, pretty deep into the season, I don't see that argument happening anymore.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's good, but can he play with the concussion?
I thought it was ironic how the Eagles fans are trying to clown on the 49ers fans so hard for like, oh, you're crying about having your backup quarterback in. And I mean, look what happened now that we had Brock Purdy. And then also Mariota had to come in at some point. And I was kind of like, all right, let's see what you can do with your backup quarterback, Eagles.
And they were already getting dusted by then. It didn't matter.
Yeah, by the point that Mariota came in, the Niners, it was already a blowout.
Yeah. So, like, at the end of the day, it sucks to see Jalen get hurt. Anyone who rooted or cheered for Jalen Hurts going to the sideline and having to be evaluated for a concussion, you're a fucking loser. But at that point in the game, it really didn't matter. It was kind of already over, and the 49ers were just putting the emphasis on the win.
Man, Debo putting the exclamation point on it.
Ugh.
And Juwan Jennings just
yes,
man, it was crazy because none of these plays were like, oh, Brock's gonna throw it 50 yards down the field, he's gonna moss you. Every play was like, we're gonna fucking run you over.
Yeah,
and that style is just so good to watch for the 49ers against probably the other most physical team in the league, in the Eagles.
And they made you're exactly right. They made their linebacking core and their secondary just look mediocre. Like they looked like they didn't want that physicality. They did not want to hit Debo in the fourth quarter. They didn't want to hit Juwan Jennings. Brandon Ayuk, they just didn't want him to go past them. He just kept eating up the sidelines. So the 49ers are just the better team. It gives me mad confidence going into this playoff run, having beat the Dallas Cowboys, just starched them. Then coming into Philly, and starching them.
And the Lions,
who in the NFC,
struggling a bit,
is going to beat the 49ers?
Lions struggled in this last game.
Yeah. The Lions, who also got beat by the Seattle Seahawks, who the 49ers starched. They struggled against the Saints. I don't think the Lions have it. Their defense is god-awful, and if they do not have the lead or they can keep up run for run with this 49ers team, it's going to be a blowout as well. Like, I don't see – do you see anyone in the NFC beating this 49ers team?
It's going to be tough. I think it depends on how healthy the Eagles come back in. Like, they need to – honestly, what they're missing is dropping a game or two to just like, hey, we don't got it this week. Let's just take a break. Like, let's take a week off and let's, come back next week stronger. And I feel like that's kind of what rejuvenated the 49ers was like, man, we're losing these games and this sucks, but let's take these extra days and really get healthy. And once we got healthy, it's all over from there. But the Eagles just been going nonstop, man. I think they played like 3 games in like 15 days.
Okay, but at the end of the day, like, what are the playoffs? You don't get bye weeks in between playoffs. So
yeah, but leading up, I mean, it's just tough because they're winning these close games.
They play
and
football.
Now, if they
play football when they needed to play football, that's crazy. That's
no. Once they play the Cowboys, like that's the game they have to win. But if they drop it, now it's wow. Okay, even if we win, the rest of the schedule's easy. 2 games against the Giants, and then I think they have the Seahawks. Like those are games where they really could have just got up 21-0 and then coasted. But when you play every single game every week, 3-point game, 7-point game, I mean, your body's taking a toll.
Yeah, I mean, before we dig into like next week with the matchups with the Dallas Cowboys and the Eagles and the 49ers and the Seahawks, do you have any like last statements or like, hey, let's put a bow on this?
Brock Purdy, MVP of the league. Brock Purdy has the best odds right now to win the MVP.
Yeah, he is the favorite for the NFL MVP. Personally, I have an agenda. I would really like for it to be Christian McCaffrey, but I like the Brock Purdy. Like, he's done everything you need to do as far as a quarterback for a winning team. He's looked awesome down the stretch. He's explosive, yet also like just really picks and chooses his spots. He does it well. When he turns the ball over, he makes up for those mistakes. I mean, you feel good about him. And so I don't know if he's going to end up winning this. I think it's a year where if a non-quarterback does ball out, there can be a non-quarterback MVP. But man, as of right now, How could you not? If the 49ers end up with the number 1 seed, or even if they end up at number 2, but they have this head-to-head win against the Eagles, you have to do someone from the 49ers, whether it be Brock Purdy or even Christian McCaffrey. But Brock Purdy, MVP as of right now.
Yeah, this is a weird year where no quarterback has like really pulled away and no one's like showing that flashy storyline. So I think definitely this should be a year where it goes to McCaffrey or Tyreek Hill. Those two guys are just dominating all year. How many more records does McCaffrey have to break before he gets that notice as the MVP? But the league's not going to let that happen. They're not going to let it be a non-quarterback. You can tell that clearly in the odds in Vegas. If it was going to be McCaffrey or Tyreek, like they would be at the top already. Like they would be in the top 3 right now. But they're not going to let it happen. It's going to be a quarterback, whether that's Lamar, whether it's Jalen getting a couple more wins and really just solidifying himself at the top, or if it's Purdy. And it could very well be Purdy in a weird year like this, where like, if not, we're not seeing a lot of good quarterback play. I mean, look around the league, how many backups are playing, and even the good quarterbacks are having a lot of stinkers out there. So if not Purdy, then who? I know we were talking last week, like if Purdy's not top 10, then who's in the top 10? Name me the top other 10 best quarterbacks. And you can't really put the list together. So right now, if it's not Purdy, then who is it? Because Jalen Hurts, he hasn't played amazing. He hasn't played bad, but Purdy's looking
Brock Purdy
better.
just beat him.
Yeah, Brock Purdy just beat him. Jared Goff fell off a little bit. Lamar, I feel like it's just been quiet over there. That's who I would feel like is more comfortable, but now it starts to feel like the narrative is pushing towards Brock Purdy.
Yeah, and I mean, to go from Mr. Irrelevant to NFL MVP in a 2-year stint, it's pretty good. I mean, you start to build these storylines. Hey, the 49ers are a powerhouse. They're, just beating the shit out of upper echelon teams. You kind of, and then this fan base is so huge. And so you start to really bubble that up as we start to go on in these weeks that actually matter. So I could see it happening. Again, if Christian McCaffrey, let's say he balls out and again is the rushing leader by more than 400 yards, like you got to take a look at that too. All right. Well, be sure to hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe and drop some comments below. We really appreciate it. Later.